Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a profoundly challenging topic from our source text. We're going to look at exactly how the scriptures instruct us, as Torah observant believers, to navigate our really deep frustrations with modern political leadership. Look, we live in a highly polarized world, and honestly, it can be incredibly tough to figure out how to react when the geopolitical landscape just feels like total chaos. So let's just bypass the noise of the 24-hour news cycle for a bit and look directly at the framework established by the Most High. When we see rising inflation, blatant corruption, or new laws being passed that directly violate the Torah, our absolute knee-jerk reaction is to lash out, right? I mean, we vent at the dinner table, we fire off angry posts on social media, we mock the people in power. It's human nature. But our source text really forces us to pause and ask, does this worldly reactionary conduct actually align with what Elohim demands of us? Well, as we're about to see, the scriptural standard is drastically different from the world's standard.
So today, we're shifting our paradigm from worldly political theater to heavenly reality. We'll quickly cover the sovereign over all kings, how rulers reflect our spiritual state, the command against cursing, acting righteously under wicked rule, Yashua and Rome, and finally, the path to healing. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, the sovereign over all kings. We have to start with this absolutely foundational truth of biblical governance, which is that no earthly leader achieves power outside the sovereign will of Yahweh. You know, humanity loves to believe that geopolitical outcomes are all about democratic voting or military coups or backroom machinations. But the spiritual reality, it's entirely different. Just look at the prophet Daniel. He lived under the incredibly oppressive pagan Babylonian Empire. Yet, as this quote beautifully captures, he recognized that the rise and fall of leaders are entirely governed by the Most High. Daniel wasn't out there wasting his energy organizing protests. He completely acknowledged the absolute authority of the Creator over the nations. Now, there is a really uncomfortable truth in this passage, specifically that phrase, the lowest of men. Daniel reveals that Yahweh sometimes intentionally places corrupt, foolish, or even outright evil men in supreme authority for a very specific divine purpose. It's not a mistake. Yahweh hasn't lost control. And what this means is that to curse a leader is functionally shaking our fists at the Creator who orchestrated or permitted their rise to power in the first place. Section 2, rulers reflect our spiritual state. So this brings us to a sobering spiritual mirror. We have to ask, why would a benevolent Elohim actually install corrupt leadership over us?
Well, the answer lies in the spiritual law of collective reflection. The Torah makes it abundantly clear through the blessings and curses of Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. When a nation, and crucially the believers within it, falls into compromise, idolatry, and lawlessness, Yahweh withdraws his protection. Wicked rulers literally become the rod of discipline in the hand of the Almighty. So when we're complaining about tyrannical governments, a lot of the time we're just watching the execution of Leviticus 26 in real time.
And 1 Samuel 8 brilliantly illustrates this historical pattern. Remember when Israel demanded to be like all the other nations and have a human king? They actively rejected Yahweh's direct rule over them. Samuel warned them exactly what a human ruler would do. He'd take their sons, their fields, he'd tax them heavily, but they chose it anyway. And that led to a long, painful chronicle of suffering under the exact leaders they begged for. We simply cannot tolerate a culture of lawlessness and then act shocked when our leaders behave lawlessly. We get the rulers we deserve. Section 3, the command against cursing leaders. Because the ruler is placed there by Yahweh, either as a blessing or as a rod of discipline, the Torah actually erects a strict, uncompromising boundary around our tongues. And guys, this isn't just a gentle suggestion. It's a direct command nestled right in the heart of the civil laws given at Sinai. The Hebrew word for curse here implies bringing into contempt, making light of, or wishing evil upon someone. Yahweh actually binds the respect due to his own name with the respect due to the office of leadership. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean we call evil policies good, but it strictly forbids the casual character assassination, hurling insults, and the bitter vitriol that is just so incredibly common today. To see how seriously this was taken, look at the apostle Shaul in Acts 23. He's standing before a notoriously corrupt high priest who just illegally ordered him to be struck right on the mouth. Naturally, Shaul snapped back with an insult. But the very second bystanders pointed out he was speaking to the high priest, Shaul immediately repented and quoted Exodus 22:28. He didn't try to justify his outburst by saying, well, the priest is corrupt. He recognized the office. If Shaul showed that kind of restraint after being physically assaulted, how much more should we? Section 4,
Righteous examples under wicked rule. Okay, so if we can't curse our leaders, how did the righteous patriarchs and prophets navigate living under actual tyrannical pagan dictatorships?
Well, the standard of honoring authority without compromising the Torah has literally never changed across history. Look at this timeline. Yosef served Pharaoh, a guy who claimed to be an actual living deity, with absolute excellence and integrity. Daniel counseled Nebuchadnezzar toward righteousness, instead of rejoicing at his impending doom. These men never launched insurgencies. They maintained their set-apart standards while honoring the positions of the kings above them, fully trusting Yahweh's ultimate plan.
Let's see how this builds into a direct command for us today. When the Jewish people were carried away captive into Babylon, Yahweh sent them this instruction through Jeremiah. He didn't tell them to sabotage the Babylonian economy or curse Nebuchadnezzar. He literally commanded them to pray for Babylon's peace. Why? Because our peace as believers is functionally tied to the stability of the nations we reside in. Wishing for systemic collapse and cursing our nations, that only ensures our own communities are going to suffer the fallout.
Section 5, Yashua and the Roman Empire. Here we look at the ultimate, perfect standard for any Torah-observant believer, the example set by our Messiah, Yashua, who lived under the brutal, pagan Roman Empire. Think about it. The Romans heavily taxed the Jewish people and crucified dissidents. Yet, when the religious leaders tried to trap Yeshua into political subversion regarding taxes, he just simply said, "Render to Caesar what is Caesar's." Later, standing before Pontius Pilate, the man who had the physical power to authorize his execution, Yeshua didn't hurl insults. He calmly looked Pilate right in the eye and affirmed that even a corrupt Roman governor's power came directly from the Father. He submitted to the process because he knew the ultimate victory belonged to Yahweh. And the emissaries perfectly echoed this standard. Shaul and Kepha commanded believers to honor the king and prioritize prayers for all in authority so that we might lead quiet and peaceable lives. Now, keep the historical context in mind here. They wrote this while Emperor Nero was on the throne. Nero was a tyrannical madman who literally burned believers alive. If first-century believers were commanded to intercede for and honor governance under Nero, we truly have zero scriptural justification for cursing our current politicians. Section 6, Teshuvah, the path to healing. Okay, this is where the rubber meets the road. If we can't curse them, and political subversion isn't the scriptural answer, how do we actually change our reality? It's the ultimate question, right? And the source text is clear. The answer is not found in a voting booth, it's not found in vitriolic blogging, and it's certainly not found in some social media war. Those are worldly weapons. The biblical answer is a profound spiritual mechanism that shifts the very foundation of a nation by bringing us back to the Father. That mechanism is Teshuvah, repentance. It's recognizing that because we get the rulers we deserve, the breakdown of society ultimately stems from a compromised body of believers. The solution isn't pointing our fingers outward, it's looking inward. We need to humble ourselves, stop the grumbling, and return to the set-apart, obedient ways of Yah. That is what actually moves the hand of the Almighty. Look at this definitive blueprint given to Solomon in 2 Chronicles 7:14. Notice the sequence here. When judgments fall on the land, whether that's pestilence or oppressive rulers, the action required is on us, his people. If we humble ourselves, pray, and turn from our wicked ways, then he promises to hear, forgive, and heal the land. Yahweh can easily turn the current ruler's heart. Proverbs says the king's heart is in his hand, after all. Or he can simply raise up a righteous leader in their place. As Torah-observant believers, we are called to be a light to the nations. But as Yaakov, or James, points out so perfectly here, we cannot shine that light if our mouths are filled with the same bitter, rebellious waters as the secular world. We have got to guard our tongues. We have to stop spewing vitriol. The geopolitical theater is incredibly loud right now, but our conduct has to reflect the quiet confidence of a people who know exactly who is sitting on the throne of the universe. And that leaves us with this final, vital question to ponder today. Every earthly ruler is merely a temporary player on a stage that is completely managed by the Creator. So what's it going to be? Will you keep wasting your breath cursing the rod of discipline? Or will you choose the scriptural path, humbling your heart, guarding your tongue, observing the commandments, and faithfully interceding for the healing of your land? Really think about how your speech and conduct will reflect the heavenly court today. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and may it challenge and refine your walk.